Noa and Chris Prince, the world's best and world's number 2, have one of the greatest rivalries in Blue Lock. But they're not the only ones. Blue Lock is full of intense rivalries between players who want nothing more than to destroy each other. So hold on tight, because starting with Noa and Chris, I'll introduce you to the most insane rivalries in Blue Lock. And by the end, I'll reveal 2 of Isagi's greatest rivals, one a genius, the other a talented learner. Chris and Noa's rivalry goes way back, long before the Neo-Egoist League even existed. Chris can't stand the fact that he lost to Noa in the UEFA Men's Player of the Year award. In his mind, it was a close competition. But in reality, Noa won by a ridiculous 681 points, which is actually the biggest gap ever recorded between first and second place in the award's history. Since Noa is all about pure logic and rationality, Chris had to come up with something completely illogical to beat him. That's where his unstoppable knuckleball comes in. During the Manshine City vs Bastard Munchen match, Chris got the ball from Chigiri, and Noa immediately closed in to block his shot. But Chris planned for this. Logically speaking, he had no way past Noa, but if he played irrationally, he just might. Chris fired off a completely unpredictable knuckleball, so random and unreadable that even he didn't know where it would land. Even Gagamaru, the goalkeeper, was unable to react properly. Noa literally clicks his tongue when he sees the shot, which just means that Chris was dangerously close to surpassing him at that moment. But in the end, Chris's genius play was denied. Isagi, who also couldn't read the shot's trajectory, gambled everything on defending the most vulnerable spot of the goal, and it worked. He blocked Chris's shot and prevented him from finally outplaying Noa. Isagi and Nagi's rivalry is the reason Nagi even started caring about football in the first place. Back in Team Z versus Team V, there is a moment where Isagi is so laser focused on the game that he completely ignores Nagi's constant questions about why he won't quit and just give up. And that moment, that's probably when Nagi's interest in Isagi as a player truly began. It's a big reason why Nagi chose to team up with Isagi in the second selection, even though it meant splitting up with Ryo. Fast forward to the Neo-Egoist League, and Nagi's number 1 goal is crushing Isagi. When Chris asks him about his ideals, Nagi doesn't even hesitate. He just wants to defeat Isagi. That's his entire motivation, which is why he trained under Chris and Agi. But even with all the originality and creativity he learned, it still wasn't enough to surpass Isagi. Nagi reaches out to Ryo again. Nagi knows he needs Ryo's help to surpass Isagi, and with their duo back, he enters the flow, using his trapping skills to break through defenders and try to outplay Isagi's metavision. However, Isagi reads him like a book. When Isagi predicts his next move, Nagi immediately changes plans. Instead of pushing forward, he passes to Ryo and asks for the Neo-Egoist pass, a setup that lets him break Isagi's play entirely. And then, Nagi awakens his genius playstyle. He executes the perfect 5-shot revolver fake volley, a move so insane that it completely destroys Isagi's logic and metavision. In that moment, Nagi finally beats Isagi. The thing is, Nagi stops popping off right there. This guy didn't even win Manshine City the game, yet he declares victory over Isagi as if it's all that matters. And that's his biggest flaw. Still, Isagi was furious. His metavision wasn't good enough, and he took that personally. But for Nagi, it was like his fire burned out. He finally reached his goal. So now what? In the matches that followed, he couldn't replicate his performance. And just like that, some of you put him on Fraud Watch. Jokes aside, Nagi's short-term win over Isagi actually stopped his growth. Even Baro noticed that something was off. Nagi had lost his hunger. His ego wasn't strong enough. After losing to Paris X-Jin, he even goes to Ren for advice. And he asks him an important question. If he manages to crush Sei and Isagi, then what? The Nagi and Baro rivalry isn't as strong as their own beef with Isagi, but it's still a thing. These two are thrown down in the second selection with their own partners, and later on, they even teamed up as a trio with Isagi. Since they played together even after Isagi got stolen, Nagi and Baro know each other's strengths inside out. That said, their rivalry ain't as intense compared to the other ones on this list. Still, these two see each other as equals, someone they need to one-up in rankings or plays. And they've got one big thing in common. They both want to crush Isagi. After Manshine City took an L to Ubers, Nagi went up to Baro and straight up asked him about his goal. What exactly is driving him to play so intensely? More importantly, if he actually achieves it, then what? Baro doesn't even hesitate. He already knows the deal. If he becomes the king of football, then he'll defend his throne and wreck anyone who tries to challenge him. However, Baro notices something's off with Nagi. This guy ain't the same pain in the behind he used to be. His hunger's gone. His fire's dying out. If he doesn't do some serious soul searching and get over that shallow ego, he's gonna hit rock bottom and spiral into despair. Quick timeout! Before we dive into the next biggest rivals in the series and introduce you to Isagi's greatest rivalries, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to stick around until the end and hit that like and subscribe button. Alright, let's kick off! Kunigami and Chigiri have always been good friends. Back in the second selection, they teamed up with Ryo to go up against Isagi, Nagi, and Baro. But when they lost, Chigiri was the one who got stolen. It wasn't just Ryo and Kunigami who were frustrated. Chigiri was too. But instead of sulking, he told Kunigami straight up he'll be waiting, because as far as he's concerned, they still haven't beaten Isagi yet. Unfortunately, Kunigami lost his next match too, and to make it even more frustrating, it was against Igarashi and Shido of all people. Chigiri kept waiting for the hero Kunigami to return, but after the second selection, he realized Kunigami had failed. Not that Chigiri had time to dwell on it, he had his own survival to focus on. By the time the Neo-Egoist League started, Kunigami had completed his secret training arc. Now, he was back as the lone survivor of Wildcard, a carbon copy of Noa. But he wasn't the same Kunigami anymore. His dream of being a hero was completely abandoned, and it's not hard to see why. After sending hundreds of players home in the Wildcard, the weight of that title must have crushed him. During the Bastard Munchen vs Manshine City match, Chigiri finally got a chance to talk to Kunigami. To him, as long as Kunigami was still the guy he knew, he'd fight him as a rival and friend. Because back then, he said he'd wait for the hero Kunigami. And if that hero had fallen, Chigiri was going to wake him up. But after the match, Kunigami straight up ignored him. They crossed paths again a few chapters later, and even though Kunigami still didn't want to talk, Chigiri made one thing clear. He wasn't giving up on him. He'd keep an eye on Kunigami, and he expected Kunigami to do the same. Next up is the rivalry between Hiori Yo and Tabito Karasu. You might not know this, but these two actually knew each other before joining Blue Lock. In fact, Karasu could tell from the start that Hiori didn't truly love soccer. He's played with him way too many times to not notice. Before Blue Lock, Hiori and Karasu were both part of Bambi Osaka Youth, which is why Hiori knew Karasu's style so well. He even warned Isagi about Karasu targeting the weakest player when they teamed up in the third selection. During the U20 match, we saw a little Hiori-Karasu link up. And Karasu? Dude was impressed with Hiori's passing game. Not that it was anything new to him. And this is where things got a bit tricky. If you only look at this moment, you'd think these two might have been a duo at some point. But when Bastard Munchen faced Parasex Jin, Hiori and Karasu went head to head. After Hiori finally overcame his toughest challenge, Charles, Karasu immediately stepped in, intercepting Raichi's pass and challenging him to take on a new quest. This time against him, Nanase and Zantetsu. But Karasu didn't get his way. Hiori outplayed him completely, landing a no-look pass straight to Isagi. It turns out that Karasu had been waiting for Hiori to awaken his true ego all along. Even back at Bambi Osaka Youth, he tried pushing Hiori to find what really excites him about soccer instead of worrying about what other people expect from him. When Hiori finally got fired up in their Neo-Egoist match, Karasu used his analytical metavision to block his passing route all by himself. He never thought he'd see the day, but now Karasu wants to test if Hiori is just average or truly exceptional. But hold up before we move on. I gotta make something clear. While working on this video, I realized there are two types of players we need to consider for this list: rivals and ultimate challenges, also called obstacles. For two players to be true rivals, they need to meet these two key conditions. First, they have to be competitive enough to want to destroy each other. And second, they have to both recognize each other as rivals, whether it's confirmed in the series or just blatantly obvious. That's why Shido and Kunigami, or Hiori and Charles, don't make the cut. It's one-sided. Shido doesn't even know Kunigami exists, and Hiori? He's just treating Charles like his personal final boss quest. The Isagi-Botra rivalry kicked off when they became tight friends and an insanely compatible duo in Blue Lock. And honestly, out of all of Isagi's rivalries, this one's probably the healthiest. No destruction, no death threats, none of that Ren or Kaiser energy. Back in Blue Lock's early stages, these two were insanely in sync. Most of the time, Botra played the playmaker, setting Isagi up for goals. Other times, he'd go full egoist, using Isagi as a piece in his own goal-scoring plays. Their connection was so strong that even when Botra got snatched away to Ren's team in the second selection, Isagi and Nagi struggled to function without him. But both of them grew as players. When it was time to pick teams for the Neo-Egoist League, they went their separate ways. But for Botra, it didn't matter. To him, it wasn't about which team they chose. It was about making that choice the best possible one. Even if they took different paths, all that mattered was evolving enough to fight again later on. And that moment came during FC Barca vs Bastard Munchen. When Isagi intercepted Benedict Grimm's pass to Ness, he found himself one-on-one with Botra. But at that moment, he couldn't see a way to score. So, he pulled some mind games. Instead of forcing a shot, Isagi baited Botra with a fake shot, making him react just enough to open up a space. That let him dish out a pass to Kunigami, who then smashed it in with a lefty shot. It wasn't the most striker versus striker way to settle their rivalry, but Botra didn't mind. However, next time, he wants them to go all out as true strikers, fighting for the same goal. The Noa vs Lavino rivalry first showed up at the peak of the FC Barca vs Bastard Munchen match. When Lavino subbed in using the Neo-Egoist League star change system, Noa immediately stepped in too, keeping things fair. But these two? They've got history. Back in the Champions League semi-finals, Noa defeated Lavino, though Lavino seems to have his own headcanon about that match. Instead of remembering it as the semi-finals, he insists it was actually the finals. To Lavino, Noah's rational football is so boring that he actually feels bad for the bastard Munchin players stuck under him. Noah, on the other hand, sees Lavino's creative and Freedom FC Barca style as nothing but a waste of potential. He thinks it's a team with no real adult supervision. And Lavino's response? Just straight up mocking him with a goo goo gaga. On the field, those two are absolute monsters. Their one-on-one duel was a stalemate for a few seconds. Lavino's unpredictable dribbling was so elite that even though Noah's mechanical, precise style kept up, actually stealing the ball was another story. To anyone watching, it was like gods from different worlds clashing. If Isagi hadn't cut in, forcing it into a 2-on-1, the duel could have gone on even longer. Lavino even used Isagi as a wall to get past Noah, and Noah didn't even bother chasing. But despite their rivalry, Noah admits one thing. When it comes to catching opponents off guard, Lavino is the absolute best. His dance to defeat is so deadly that if it isn't stopped quickly, it guarantees FC Barca a goal. But the same applies to Noah. Later in the match, Noah tore through FC Barca's defense with his machine-like dribbling. Even Lavino and his top defenders couldn't stop him. In the end, Noah's ambidexterity let him score, and he completely outplayed Lavino. The Noah vs Loki rivalry is heating up fast. Out of all the players in the world, Noah sees Loki as the biggest threat to his throne. But that's exactly what Noah wants. He thrives on going against stronger opponents so he can push himself even further. He's even planting the seeds to awaken Kaiser, hoping to turn him into a future rival too. And right now, Loki is already that for Noah. His god speed is practically superhuman. He blazes through defenders like they're nothing, reaching top speed faster than maybe even Noah himself. He's so fast that he can react to Kaiser impact, literally the fastest shot in the world, right after it's fired. And he still has the nerve to call it slow. And get this, he's only 17. Loki is 100% sure he'll surpass Noah and take his throne as the world's best striker. And how's he gonna do it? Through Charles. See, Loki didn't join the Neo-Egoist League just to show off. He's here to awaken Charles's raw, unbalanced abilities. He wants him to develop his passing sense by playing with strikers like Shido and Rin, and this high-stakes environment is perfect for that. And it's working. Charles's contrarian pass is evolving exactly the way Loki envisioned, and once Charles fully matures, the day Loki surpasses Noah won't be far off. As the world's best striker, it's no shock that Noah has plenty of rivals, and one of his biggest is Mark Snuffy, a player that Noah himself admits is better than him when it comes to being a complete all-around player. When Snuffy is on the field, even Noah's extreme logic and calculated plays aren't enough to find a way to stop him. Their playstyles couldn't be more different. Noah is the ultimate egoist striker, while Snuffy is the backbone of his team, making sure Uber's runs like a well-oiled machine. Sure, Snuffy has world-class stats, IQ, and technique, just like Noah. He even handled a 2-on-1 against both Noah and Isagi. But instead of chasing goals for himself, he focuses on making his team function perfectly. And their rivalry doesn't stop on the field either. They also clash over their coaching styles. Snuffy hates Bastard Munchin's cutthroat attack system, where Isagi and Kaiser constantly devour each other. To him, that kind of football isn't beautiful. It's just chaotic. But Noah stands by it. For him, it's revolutionary. This rivalry even has the potential to continue with the next generation. Well, kind of. Snuffy wanted Baro to be his successor, while Noah, even though he's technically just using Isagi to awaken Kaiser, still helped Isagi grow a lot. Rin vs Shido. This rivalry between geniuses has been wreaking havoc in Blue Lock long before the Japan U20 match even happened. Back in the third selection, Rin was ranked first, and Shido was ranked second. Ego thought it'd be a good idea to put them on the same team, which was a huge gamble to prepare for their match against Japan U20. And you can guess how well that worked out. These two weren't just incompatible, they were straight up at each other's throats, sending death threats and getting into actual fights instead of working together. So you'd think there's no way they'd ever be on the same team again, right? Wrong. In the Neo-Egoist League, not only were they both on Paris X-Gen, but they also became the team's two main strikers. Normally, only one of them played at a time while the other sat on the bench. But when they faced Bastard Munchin, Loki put them on the field together. This time, they had Charles as their playmaker, and somehow, they didn't break into a brawl. Shido still couldn't stand Rin, but he respected the Berserker playstyle Rin showed and threw down a challenge. He told Charles to decide which of them was crazier and passed to that person instead. But things changed when Isagi and Kaiser teamed up to crush them. Shido decided to try something different. He actually passed the ball to Rin. If Bastard Munchin's aces were working together, then maybe he and Rin should do the same. Spoiler alert, it did not go well. It turns out that even a duo of geniuses can outplay a duo of adaptable, talented learners. Want to know how Isagi and Kaiser took them down? Well, you'll have to find out for yourself. The Itoshi brothers rivalry is something fans have been waiting to see again for a long time. Sure, Ren's main goal right now is to crush Isagi, but before that, there was only one person he wanted to destroy, his older brother, Sei. Back when they were kids, they shared the same dream. Sei would be the best striker in the world, and Ren would be right behind him as the second best. But when Sei came back to Japan, he abandoned that dream. Instead of being a striker, he chose to become a midfielder. And worse, he completely cut off Ren, saying he didn't need him anymore. Their rivalry hit its peak in the Japan U20 match. Instead of choosing Rin as a striker, Sei picked Shido instead, proving once again that he had zero faith in his little brother. But for Rin, this was the perfect opportunity, the chance he'd been waiting for to finally crush Sei. Rin went berserk, tearing through the Japan U20 defenders using their own techniques against them. But even though he dominated the field, he still couldn't score. So he went for plan B, defense. When Sei got the ball, he effortlessly dribbled past Isagi, Baro, and Nagi. But then, Rin stood in his way, and at that moment, everything became clear. As long as Rin was playing just to surpass Sei, he'd never become the best. He needed to overcome himself first, and that's exactly what he did. Rin stopped Sei's dribble and sent the ball flying, and Isagi was right where he needed to be because he believed Rin would win. And he did. Sei miscalculated his options, and Rin came out on top. For a second, Rin thought this was it. Sei finally saw him as Japan's best striker. But nope. Instead, Sei said it was Isagi. Even in the Neo-Egoist League, Rin is still haunted by Sei's phantom. He knows that surpassing this phantom of his brother is the only way to grow. But he can't figure out how. He needs someone to give him a new impulse, and that's when Isagi entered the picture. The Isagi vs Yukimia rivalry kicked off when Yukimia wasn't happy about Isagi getting subbed in against FC Barca just for fan service. But that wasn't all. He was disappointed that Isagi passed to Kunigami instead of taking the shot himself. And on top of it all, Isagi called him blind to reality, which hit a little too close to home. In a sense, Yukimia is really going blind. He has optic neuropathy, meaning when he's exhausted, his vision blurs. He gets tunnel vision and blind spots. His time on the field is running out, and he's desperate to become the best before it's too late. In both the Manshine City and Bastard Munchen matches, Yukimia was out for blood. He kept going after Isagi, trying to beat him to the ball or straight up steal it from him. And while Isagi was still annoyed by their fight, he didn't consider him a rival. Well, not yet. So what changed? Even after everything, Isagi tried to work with Yukimia to take down Kaiser, because logically, that was the best option. But Yukimia refused. To him, Isagi and Kaiser were just a pair cut from the same cloth, and he wanted no part in that. Obviously, Isagi wasn't having it. He swore he'd make Yukimia eat his words. But that's when Isagi saw through Yukimia's egocentrism, and Isagi knew exactly how to use that against him. While Yukimia was obsessed with crushing Isagi, Isagi saw him as the final piece of his puzzle. He broke Yukimia down and then, at the last moment, brought him back. He used Yukimia's own rage against him to make the play that crushed Kaiser. Although they apologized to each other after that, don't expect them to start acting like friends, let alone a duo. Their relationship is simple. They'll keep devouring each other until there's only one left standing. The rivalry between Noa and Ego was one of the biggest surprises in Blue Lock. When Isagi talked to Noa about how he discovered metavision, egocentrism, and all that stuff, Noa had a realization. Isagi's mindset felt a little too similar. And then it hit him. Isagi thinks just like his very first rival. You see, Ego wasn't just Noa's rival. He was his former teammate and brother in arms over 10 years ago. Even Snuffy mentioned it during the Bastard Munchen vs Zuber's match. After he and Noa got subbed out, Snuffy pointed out that Baro and Isagi's rivalry reminded him a lot of Noa and Ego's own twisted rivalry from the past. While Noa became the world's best, Ego took a completely different path. He became obsessed with creating the #1 player in the world. And when you look at it, their rivalry never really ended. Noa wants someone to bring logic that can defeat him, and Ego is trying to do just that with Blue Lock. He has the concepts, theories, and formulas to create Japan's ultimate striker, someone who can steal the title of the world's best. Because in his prime as a pro player, Ego couldn't achieve that himself. Curious? If you want to dig deeper into their story, check out this video, where we explain every world-class pro player in just 20 minutes. The ultimate genius versus talented learner rivalry in Blue Lock, Isagi versus Rin. But let's be clear, at first, Rin never saw Isagi as a rival. That is until Sei acknowledged Isagi as Japan's future instead of him. From that moment, Rin's motivation shifted. Instead of just crushing Sei, he now wants to destroy Isagi, maybe even more than his own brother. But the thing is, when Rin went Berserker mode in the Parasex Gen vs Bastard Munchen match, he realized something. No matter how insane his plays get, it's still not enough to surpass Sei's phantom. And unless he destroys that illusion, he'll forever remain in Sei's shadow. That's when he needed a new impulse, and that someone was Isagi. Rin collided with Isagi's defense, pulling off a mid-air free kick to score. But on the other hand, Isagi was awakening on his own. He realized that his genius of adaptability was a complete fraud. He wasn't a genius at all. Instead, Isagi fully embraced his identity as a talented learner. And that's when he unlocked the full power of his awakened metavision, also known as omnivision. He baited Rin into thinking he had already won. But in reality, Isagi set it all up so Kaiser could block Rin's shot. To take down the genius Rin, Isagi actually teamed up with Kaiser. And man, they crushed both Rin and Shido. But Rin wasn't going down that easily. He awakened his predator eyes to shatter the connection between Isagi and Kaiser. But Isagi was ready for this. He had already thrown away his useless emotions, and that's when luck smiled on him. He got Nessa's dark magic pass. Seeing Isagi about to score, Rin reached out trying to stop him, but he couldn't. Isagi was evolving at a terrifying rate, and on top of that, he had the charisma to use other players' egos for his own goals. Rin called him Blue Lock's Demon King as Isagi fired the game-winning shot. And now, the final rankings are revealed. Isagi and Rin are tied at the top, with a 240 million yen annual salary bid. Isagi and Kaiser have been at each other's throats since the start of the Neo Egoist League, and I think that will never ever change. These two talented learners are farming insults every chance they get. And yeah, they teamed up to take down the geniuses of Paris X Jin, but their twisted rivalry is still going strong. And honestly, that's how it should be. This all started when Kaiser stole Isagi's shot during Bastard Munchen's training. From Kaiser's POV, Isagi is just some clown who thinks he's the star. In fact, Kaiser came to the Neo Egoist League just to toy with Isagi to make this whole thing worth his time. And well, he's definitely getting his money's worth. Kaiser keeps trying to force Isagi to kneel, but Isagi refuses to play under him. Instead, he's been analyzing Kaiser, studying how he dominates the field, and figuring out a way to break him down. One perfect example is the Meta Vision. It is one of Isagi's biggest breakthroughs, with Kaiser as his blueprint. After all, Kaiser is not just a Generation World 11 player, he actually plays just like Isagi. But as Isagi evolves, so does Kaiser. Kaiser realizes that he performs better under restriction, not the free playstyle Ness gives him. So he lets go of his unnecessary fixations, including his malice, and changes his approach. This shift earns him the support of Raichi and Kiora, ultimately leading him to scoring a goal with his Kaiser Impact Magnus. These two are destined to clash. Whoever comes out on top will be the king of their generation, the one who can become the world's best. Then Isagi notices something. Kaiser, just like him, is a talented learner. When they instinctively synced up to block Ren's shot, Isagi saw an opportunity. He pitched a logical deal. If they want to take down the geniuses, they need to put their rivalry aside and play as partners. Actually, Kaiser was the reason Isagi unlocked his full potential as a talented learner in the first place. This unexpected duo gave Kaiser something he hadn't felt in a long time: euphoria. Playing with Isagi set him free, which in itself is actually a problem. Kaiser plays better when restricted, so this sudden freedom backfired on him. In the end, Isagi scored the game-winning goal, Bastard Munchen won, and just like that, their contract ended. The tables have turned. Now the ultimate clown is Kaiser. It's finally time to break down the greatest rivalry among Blue Lockers, the Isagi vs Baro rivalry. This isn't just a simple competition between two players. Their concept of light and darkness trope makes this one of the best rivalries in the series. See, Baro sees Isagi as his light, and I don't mean that in a slice-of-life anime way. Back in the second selection, when Baro's tyrannical playstyle wasn't working, he almost gave in to the idea of passing to Isagi. But if he had done that, he would have sacrificed his ego and probably faded out of the football scene. So instead, Baro doubled down. Like Kaiser, he embraced restriction and despair because that's the environment where he thrives. His villainous soccer works because of his selfish, unpredictable style, devouring his own teammates to get what he wants. And who's a better meal than Isagi? While Isagi creates the light, Baro hunts for the darkness. That darkness is his prey, and it's what allows him to enter the flow. On the flip side, Isagi takes the darkness Baro spreads across the field and turns it into light. Their chemical reaction happens by devouring each other, whether they're on the same team or not. That's basically how this rivalry works. Baro is always hunting Isagi, whether it's during their match against Japan U20 or in the Neo Egoist League. Before Ubers' match against Bastard Munchen, he even dyed his hair just to mentally prepare for the battle ahead, though he's too tsundere to admit it. But Baro's desire to crush Isagi runs deep. Even for Isagi, Baro is the one opponent he refuses to lose to, more than Rin, more than Kaiser. Isagi will do anything to stop Baro, no matter what. That's why Baro took over Snuffy's team. When he realized Snuffy's philosophy wouldn't help him beat Isagi, he threw it away and carved his own path. He then scored an insane goal against Bastard Munchen, and once again, won against Isagi. But Baro isn't like Nagi. He's not satisfied with just one win. In the end, his team still lost that game, so the battle isn't over. And when Baro saw Isagi's current bid in the final rankings, he didn't feel threatened. He felt more fired up than ever. Being ranked higher than Isagi feels good, but this is exactly what he wanted. Because if Isagi climbs to the highest spotlight and Baro devours him there, then that just proves he's the best. And that's a wrap on Blue Lock's most intense rivalries. If you had to rank these rivals from best to worst, how would your list look? Drop your rankings in the comments and let's see who gets the top spot. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Blue Lock, you'll also love these videos about Sakamoto Days and Kaiju number 8. Click here to check it out.